Hey, I'm Hunter from SkillThrive, and welcome to the second lesson in this 4-part course where you'll design and code a video channel landing page. In this lesson, you will write the HTML for the design from lesson 1. Once you're done, you'll move on to writing the CSS in lesson 3. You'll also find all the lessons linked for this course in the description. Feel free to follow along and write the code as we go, but you can also download the final code and design on skillthrive.com for a small price. This helps me as a creator to continue making design and development courses for you to watch at no cost. With that out of the way, let's get started. All right, so now that we have the design done in Figma, let's go ahead and jump in and actually start writing the HTML for the actual video channel. Now, the thing I do want to mention before we get started is the code editor that I'm using, and that code editor is Visual Studio Code. Now, the reason I'm suggesting that is there's going to be some extensions that I want to be installing, and if you're using something that's different, you might not have the same access to those extensions. Now, if you're familiar with something else and you want to use it, feel free to use it. It's just definitely something here in case you want to follow along with me exactly. So after you download that here from code.visualstudio.com, let's go ahead and open up Visual Studio Code. And once it loads up, come down here to this icon, and this is where you can actually install extensions. Now the first one I want to install is Live Server. So it's going to be the first one here. I'm going to click on this. You can see that 4.4 million people have downloaded it, and it's 5 stars. So you can tell it's really popular. And the reason it's really popular is that it allows you to make changes in your code, whether that's HTML or CSS, and then see those reflected live in the browser. And essentially what it does is it just creates like a hosted website for you on your computer. And then by doing that, once you save those files, it's going to like refresh automatically, and you can see that. Now in the past, I've gone through and actually just went and refreshed the site by hand. And the one reason that's annoying is not just the fact that you have to do it every time you want to see the changes, but for those who are watching this and are learning and just trying to understand what I'm writing and what it's actually doing, it's going to help you connect those dots a little better. So cool. Now that you have that extension installed, the next one I have, I'm going to be using is HTML boilerplate. And I don't see it here, so let's see HTML. Oh, I spelled it wrong, so boilerplate. Here we go. And this is just going to allow you to type in like HTML. You can come down, select the boilerplate, and it's going to spit out some boilerplate code for you. Now, if you don't know what boilerplate code is, essentially it's just code that you would rewrite on like over and over again. So instead of rewriting it over and over again, you can just start with some starter code, change a couple things like a title and the description, and then start actually writing the code. So go ahead and install that because I want to be using this as well. And then we can come in and actually create a new project here. So I'm going to come into my Finder. I'm going to come into the desktop and create a new folder. Just call that folder video channel. Then I can grab this folder and then drag it into Visual Studio Code here on the icon. And it's going to open up that project for us. And I'm just going to go ahead and move this to the left of the screen, and then move our browser to the right. So here under this folder, I can go ahead and create a new file. So I'm going to do index.html, which is going to be for our home page. And then I'm going to create the style.css, which is going to hold our styling. Then I'm going to come back into the HTML, and I'm going to type in HTML. HTML. You can see here that we have this HTML5 boilerplate. I can click that, and then it spits out that boilerplate code. And then I can come through and change some things. So let's change the title to video channel, and for the description I can change this to "This is my awesome video channel." And then we can go ahead and pull in the style, so style.css. Okay, and then go ahead and get rid of this comment. And now that we have this, let's go ahead and come into this HTML file, right click and say open with live server. And you'll see this new tab opens up, and you don't see anything right now, but if we come in and just add like an H1 here that says hello world, and then save that, you'll see that reflected in the browser automatically. Cool, so we don't need hello world. And we also don't want this script tag. And the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and just pull in a wrapper, or create a wrapper. So let's do div class equals wrapper. Let's go ahead and do double quotes. And then I'm going to create a comment here. And this comment is going to just say that this is where the header starts. So header. And then we can create a new section. And this section we can call top section. Then we can create a header here. And on this header, I want an H1. And you can put any title you want. So we can do your channel title. Then we can do a p tag with some of the lorem ipsum. And I'm just going to come into Figma and copy this lorem ipsum. Come back into our code editor here. And then paste that in. Then under the p tag, I'm going to do a button. And on this button, we're going to have watch now. So let's go ahead and save that. Cool. So now we can see those here in our browser. And then on this section, this is it for the header. So let's go ahead and just comment that so we know that this is end header section. And the next thing I want to do is create another comment here, and this is going to show us that this is where the content is going to actually start. And the first thing I want to do here is create another section and give this a class equal to content section. And on this, I want to go ahead and create the first playlist. And on that playlist, I want a h4 tag, and this h4 tag is going to be our playlist title. So we'll give that a class equal to playlist title. And on the h4, we can just say section title. Okay, so we can see that there in the browser. And the next thing I want to do is go ahead and create a div for all the videos. So this will be div class equals videos. And before we actually move on to the actual video, like the individual videos, let's actually go ahead and bring in the images that I exported from Figma. So I'm going to come into the Finder here, and here is my actual, where my images are. And here is where my project is. So I'm just going to copy this folder here with all my images, come into the desktop where my project is, and then paste that in. And you'll see that right here, the images are pulled into the video channel. Okay, so now what we can do is we can create a new div here. So I'm going to do div class equals video. And then I'm going to do some inline styling to pull in the background image, or at least set the background image. So background image, and we're going to set that to a URL. So the URL is just going to be where the images are. So it's going to be images / image -1 and then JPEG. So this is just the file name. And then we can just go ahead and close that up. The next thing I'm going to do is actually use a Font Awesome icon. Now, in order to do that, we need to make sure that we're pulling in the Font Awesome library. And to do that, we need to head to Font Awesome website. And once you're on the actual home page here, you'll see, this call to action to start using for free. Then you want to make sure you have the free selected, and then just go ahead and just copy all of this, come back here, and up here under your style, where you called the actual style sheet, just paste that in, and now we can start using Font Awesome within our HTML. Now, in order to find like the actual what you need to call in order to use it, so you can search for an icon. So we're going to do the play circle. And you can see up here you have the HTML, the icon HTML that we can use to actually use this in our project. So I'm just going to click here to copy it, and then paste that right here. Cool. And once we did that, I'm just going to copy this video 7 more times. So this div right here for the video, I'm going to copy this and then paste it 7 times. And this represents the individual videos, or the 8 individual videos for the first playlist. Then I'm going to come in and just change the numbers here. All right, and once we say that, we can actually start seeing some of the images sort of pull in. They look awful, but we'll fix that in the styling. And now what we want to do is go ahead and create the playlist 2 section. So let's come up to the playlist 1 div, and you can see here it highlights the end of that, and we can just go ahead and copy this and then paste it underneath this one. And we'll change this one to playlist 2. And we also need to change the title if you want. And we also need to change this to start at 9 and then go up to 16. All right, so that's basically everything we need to do. I do want to just go ahead and, just for good measure, I'm going to note here. So create a note that says this is the end of the content section. And go ahead and just note here that this is end of the wrapper. So once we say that, you can see you have your 2 sections, we have our header, and that's basically everything that is going to be in this as far as the HTML, and we're going to make this look really nice and pretty in the next video where we're going to actually be writing the CSS. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump in and start writing the CSS.